The card reader beeped 3 times with that judgmental sound that meant insufficient funds. I stared at the screen, my face burning as the cashier shifted uncomfortably and the woman behind me sighed loudly. "Let me try this one," I said, fumbling through my wallet for the backup card. Same angry beeps. Then the third card, the one I'd never had declined in 15 years of marriage. The machine practically screamed its rejection. "Ma'am, do you have cash?" The teenage cashier looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. The groceries sat there between us. Nothing extravagant, just the usual Tuesday shopping. Milk, bread, the organic pasta Blain preferred, the expensive coffee he insisted on. "Let me call my husband." The words tasted bitter. When had I become the type of woman who had to call her husband to buy groceries? I abandoned the cart and walked to my car on unsteady legs, already dialing Blain's number. It rang 4 times before he answered. "What is it, Alana?" "I'm in a meeting." "The cards aren't working." "All of them." "I'm at the store, Anne." "Check your email." His voice was flat, businesslike. "What's going on?" "I can't even buy." "Check your email." The line went dead. I sat in the parking lot, watching other people load their groceries into their cars, living their normal Tuesday lives. My hand shook as I opened my email app. The subject line of one email read, "Dissolution of marriage, more versus more." Below that, another email from Blain himself, "Alana, I've filed for divorce. The accounts are closed. You'll need to figure things out for yourself now. I'm sure you'll manage, you always said you were stronger than you looked. Time to prove it." I read it twice. 15 years. 15 years of playing the perfect homemaker wife, of letting him make every financial decision, of pretending I needed him to take care of me. And this was how he chose to end it, stranding me in a grocery store parking lot. The woman I'd been 5 minutes ago might have cried. The woman I'd been for the past 15 years certainly would have. Instead, I reached into my purse and pulled out a phone Blain had never seen. I scrolled through my contacts to Carmen Vasquez, my sister. Carmen answered on the first ring. "Alana? What's wrong?" "It's time," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "He's made his move." There was a pause, then Carmen's voice, sharp with anticipation, "Finally." "How bad?" "He emptied everything. Filed for divorce. Left me to figure it out myself." "That arrogant bastard." Carmen's laugh was cold. "He has no idea what he's just done, does he?" "No," I said. "He really doesn't." "How long until you can get here?" "By tomorrow, for sure. I'll get a flight as soon as I can. Mama and Papa will want to come too." "Tell them yes." It's time Blain met the family he spent 15 years dismissing. I ended the call and sat back in the driver's seat, remembering the early days when maintaining this deception felt like an elaborate game. I'd been Alana Vasquez then, fresh out of Stanford Business School, when I met Blain at a networking event. He was charming and ambitious, climbing the corporate ladder at Moore Industries, a mid-sized shipping company owned by one of his uncles. When Blain proposed after 8 months, I made the decision that would define the next 15 years of my life. I wanted to know if he could love me for myself, not for the Vasquez financial fortune that had graced magazine covers since I was 12. So, we had a small wedding and I became Alana Moore. When he asked about my family, I let him construct his own narrative. "They never call," he'd observed early on, sounding almost pleased. "Dysfunctional families are like that, they drag you down. Good thing you don't need them anymore." I'd simply nodded, letting him believe he'd rescued me. The truth was my family sent me mail to the P.O. box I'd rented across town. My mother's birthday cards arrived there, along with my father's quarterly business reports and Carmen's care packages. My family respected my choice, even when it pained them to stay away from holidays and milestones. Blain's ego loved the story he'd created, that he was my whole world. When I brought up having children in our 3rd year of marriage, he'd waved it off. "Not yet, Alana. The company needs my full attention. Maybe when things are more stable." Every year brought a new excuse, a promotion to chase, a deal to close, a crisis to manage. Eventually, I stopped asking. Looking back, I realized he never wanted to share me with anyone, not even our own children. He needed to be the center of my universe, and a child would have complicated that narrative. It never occurred to him to question why a woman from a broken family moved so comfortably through the high society events his company required us to attend, or why I seemed to know exactly which fork to use at charity galas. 7 years ago, when Moore Industries was hemorrhaging money and Blain came home terrified of bankruptcy, I'd made a single secret phone call. Within a month, anonymous investors had purchased enough shares to stabilize the company. Blain never suspected that his homemaker wife had orchestrated his salvation, again. The board members he worked with daily, the ones who'd slapped his back and called him brilliant as the company recovered, had actually been reporting to Vasquez Holdings all along. My family had been watching as Blain grew more arrogant with each passing year, treating me like an accessory rather than a partner. Now, finally, the waiting was over. The house felt different as I walked through it, no longer a home, but evidence. Evidence of Blain's lies, his affairs, his systematic theft from the company that was legally mine. I called Diego, my brother, and the family's primary attorney. He was in a meeting at his Seattle firm, but when his secretary said it was Alana Moore calling, he picked up immediately. "Alana?" "Carmen called me." "Are you all right?" "I'm perfect, actually." "How quickly can you get here?" "I can be on a plane in 2 hours." "What do you need?" "Everything. Full documentation of the Vasquez Holdings ownership in Moore Industries. The shell company records." "And Diego?" "I need an emergency board meeting scheduled before we go to court for the divorce proceedings." There was silence, then a low whistle. "You're really doing this?" He emptied our accounts and served me divorce papers like I was some helpless housewife he could discard. It's time he learned exactly who he married. Next, I called Sophia, my cousin, and the most ruthless corporate attorney I knew. She was in court, but called me back within 20 minutes. "Carmen filled me in," she said without preamble. "I've been waiting 15 years for this call. What has he done that we can use?" I walked to Blain's home office, the one I'd been banned from entering, and opened his filing cabinet with the key I'd copied years ago. Embezzlement, for starters. He's been using company funds for personal expenses. The trip to Bali with his secretary last spring? Company credit card. The BMW he bought himself for his birthday? Company purchase under false pretenses. You've been documenting this? Every receipt, every transaction. I've been photographing his credit card statements for 3 years. I pulled out a thick folder I'd hidden behind my recipe collection. I have records of at least $140,000 in misappropriated funds. Maybe more. Alana, you beautiful, devious woman. What else? 2 affairs that I can prove with hotel receipts and text messages. The current one is Linda Morrison from accounting. The poor woman doesn't realize she's about to lose her job along with her boyfriend. That week, my family descended on the Fairmont Hotel like a small army. Papa looked older than I remembered, but his eyes were sharp with fury when I told him everything Blain had said and done over the years. Mama cried when she hugged me, whispering apologies for staying away so long. We should have intervened, Papa said, his accent thicker when he was angry. No daughter of mine should have endured this. I chose this path, I reminded him. And now I'm choosing to end it. On my terms. The next 6 weeks were methodical for me. While Blain played house with Linda in her downtown apartment, assuming I was scrambling to find a divorce attorney, I was orchestrating his downfall with military precision. Diego flew back and forth from Seattle, building an airtight case. Sophia assembled a team of forensic accountants who found more evidence of Blain's financial crimes than I'd originally documented. The board meeting was scheduled for the morning before our court date. Blain still had no idea. He'd been traveling frequently, closing deals he thought would secure his position, never noticing that every major decision was being quietly reviewed by people who answered to me. James Morrison, the CFO, shook his head as he reviewed the embezzlement evidence the night before the board meeting. I had suspicions, but this. Alana, this is criminal. $263,000 over 3 years. He made his choices, I said simply. The vote will be unanimous. The morning of the divorce proceedings, I stood in the courthouse bathroom adjusting my look. Gone was the deferential wife in pastel cardigans. I wore a charcoal Armani suit that cost more than Blain spent on my clothing allowance in a year, my mother's diamond earrings, and the confident expression I'd inherited from 3 generations of Vasquez business leaders. Blain was about to meet his wife for the first time. And I was going to enjoy every moment of his education. The courthouse hallway buzzed with the usual morning chaos, lawyers conferring in hushed tones, families clutching tissues, the general atmosphere of lives being legally dismantled. I sat on a bench near the courtroom entrance, reviewing my notes one final time when I heard Blain's voice echoing off the marble walls. Told you, Richard, this will be simple. She has no assets, no income, no family support. We'll offer the minimum alimony and be out of here in 20 minutes. I looked up to see Blain striding down the hallway with his attorney, Richard Blackwood, expensive, ruthless, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. Behind them walked Linda Morrison, clinging to Blain's arm. She'd traded her sensible accounting department cardigans for a tight red dress that screamed other woman. Blain spotted me and his step faltered. I was no longer the woman he'd left crying in a grocery store parking lot. The Armani suit fit like armor, my hair was styled in the sharp bob I'd worn in business school, and my mother's diamonds. Alana, he said, recovering his swagger. You look different. Good morning, Blain. I stood gracefully, noting how his eyes widened as he took in my transformation. I see you brought Linda. How thoughtful. Linda flushed red but lifted her chin defiantly. Blain and I have nothing to hide. No, I agreed pleasantly. You really don't. The courtroom doors opened, and the bailiff called us in. Blain took his seat at the plaintiff's table, Linda slid into the gallery behind him. His attorney spread papers with theatrical flourish. Then my family entered. I heard Blain's sharp intake of breath as my parents walked through the doors, Papa in his perfectly tailored suit, Mama elegant and intimidating in the way only old money could achieve. Diego followed, then Carmen, then Sophia with her team of associates carrying boxes of documents. What the hell? Blain whispered to his attorney, who was frantically shuffling through papers like he'd missed something crucial. The coup de grace came when James Morrison entered with 2 other board members. Blain's face went white. James? What are you doing here? James didn't meet his eyes. I'm here in my capacity as CFO, Blain. Official business. Judge Patricia Hernandez called the court to order, and Richard Blackwood stood to present his case. Your Honor, this is a straightforward dissolution of marriage. My client, Blain Moore, seeks to divide the minimal marital assets according to the prenuptial agreement signed in 2010. Mrs. Moore has no significant income or assets of her own. Objection. Sophia rose. Your Honor, counsel is operating under significant misapprehensions about Mrs. Moore's financial status. Judge Hernandez raised an eyebrow. Counselor? Mrs. Moore is Alana Vasquez Moore, sole heir to Vasquez Financial Holdings, which owns controlling interest in Moore Industries, the very company Mr. Moore believes he controls. Furthermore, we have evidence of significant criminal financial misconduct by Mr. Moore that affects the dissolution proceedings. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Blain turned to stare at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. That's impossible, he finally managed. Alana doesn't have family money. Her family abandoned her years ago. Mr. Moore, Judge Hernandez interrupted, you'll have your chance to respond. Continue, Counselor. Sophia smiled. Your Honor, Mr. Moore is about to discover that his wife's family never abandoned her. They've been watching. And yesterday morning, the board of directors of Moore Industries voted unanimously to remove Mr. Moore as CEO for embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty. Blain shot to his feet. That's insane. I own 20% of that company. They can't. Actually, James Morrison said quietly from the gallery, your shares are being seized pending criminal investigation. The vote was 7-0, Blain. It's done. I watched my husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, crumble in real time. His face cycled through confusion, denial, and finally, dawning horror as the full scope of his situation became clear. Alana, he turned to me, his voice cracking. You can't do this. We're married. We're supposed to be a team. For the first time since this began, I felt something other than cold satisfaction. Not sympathy, but a kind of profound sadness for the man he could have been. We were never a team, Blain. Teams don't abandon each other in grocery store parking lots. Teams don't empty joint accounts without warning. Teams don't spend 15 years ensuring their partner feels small and powerless. I stood, meeting his desperate gaze. You wanted me to figure things out for myself. Consider this my solution. Richard Blackwood was frantically whispering to Blain, but I could see the lawyer's growing panic as he realized his client had just become unemployed, assetless, and criminally liable. Behind Blain, Linda Morrison had gone pale. I almost felt sorry for her. She'd attached herself to what she thought was a powerful executive, only to discover she'd been sleeping with a soon-to-be convicted embezzler. Judge Hernandez reviewed the preliminary documents Sophia had submitted. Mr. Blackwood, given these new circumstances, I'm going to adjourn for 30 minutes to allow you to confer with your client. When we reconvene, I suggest you be prepared to discuss a very different set of proceedings in the Common Pleas Court. As the courtroom emptied, Blain remained in his seat, staring at nothing. Linda had already fled, probably calculating how quickly she could distance herself from this disaster. I gathered my purse and walked toward the exit, where my family waited. As I passed Blain's table, he grabbed my wrist. 15 years, Alana, 15 years, and this is how you repay me? I looked down at his hand on my arm, then met his eyes. 15 years, Blain. 15 years of you never once asking who I really was. 15 years of you being so convinced of your own superiority that you never noticed you married someone far above your station. This isn't revenge, it's just truth finally coming to light. I gently removed his hand and walked away, feeling lighter with every step. 3 months later, I sat in the corner office that had once been Blain's. The nameplate on my desk read Alana Vasquez Moore, CEO. I'd kept his name, not out of sentiment, but because it served as a daily reminder of the lesson I'd learned about masks and the people who wear them. Moore Industries was thriving under new leadership. The toxic culture Blain had fostered was gone, replaced by the collaborative environment I'd always envisioned. James Morrison had proven to be an excellent partner in the transition. My assistant knocked and entered. Ms. Moore? Your 10 o'clock is here, send them in. Carmen walked through the door carrying coffee and pastries from my favorite bakery. She'd moved closer and our weekly sister meetings had become the highlight of my schedule. Any word on Blain? She asked, settling into the chair across from my desk. His lawyer called yesterday. The plea deal went through, 18 months, minimum security. He'll be out in time to start over, if he's smart about it. I sipped my coffee, surprised to find I felt nothing about his fate. Not satisfaction, not regret, just indifference. Carmen studied my face. Do you miss any of it, the simplicity? I thought about it seriously. There had been a strange peace in playing small, in letting someone else make the decisions. No, I said finally. I spent 15 years learning exactly who my husband was. Now I get to remember who I've always been. Please like and subscribe for more great revenge story videos. Have a divorce revenge story to tell? We'd love to hear about it in the comments.